waiting for people to join, and then we're just gonna like.
Well, once I like send the link, I just usually go because it's like people are gonna show up whenever. There's a bigger delay between what I see and what the chat sees, pretty much. So that's why I don't really wait for them.
So when you're streaming, you start streaming, and then they see it later. It's like a delay.
It's like maybe like I would I would say like maybe 5 seconds or so. It really
Oh,
depends on the connection and like and all. There's all these other factors that goes on. Because I figure like if they miss anything, they'll just catch the archive.
replay. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I guess it would make more sense for it to be like scheduled tightly. I mean,
Yeah,
we could say it's gonna start at 8. I mean, at 7,
I
and
did.
then just go.
I did tell people that it was gonna be at 6 and 6:30. Then like and like it's whatever.
Just say 7. Say
All
7. We'll
right,
just wait till
all right.
7. Are we streaming right now?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
But
we're
I
live
mean,
on the internet.
yeah. But there's like no one watching right now.
So I shouldn't show my nutsack then.
No, don't. I'll get my channel banned, dude. It takes so long to get affiliate. I don't want to lose my affiliate status right now. Come on.
What if I get in a hot tub? Isn't that the trick? I can show my nuts if I get in a hot tub or something.
Well, I don't know about guys. I mean, we might have to find another situation that men can exploit their bodies.
No, well, I forgot what that was though. There was some controversy where it was like people were getting into hot tubs because it was so they could be in like their underwear basically,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, bikinis and shit.
It's kind of genius actually.
You know, well, we do have one guy in chat. We have Stormlit Aqua here, so he's here.
What's he want to talk about? What's his name? Storm what?
Stormlit Aqua. Should I send you the link to my chat?
I'm connected on a laptop, so I'm not gonna be. Well,
Uh,
actually, could I look at it on my phone?
yeah. If you have like the Twitch app or I think even the website, you can load it on the phone.
Fuck it. Let's do it next time. I don't care. We're
All
gonna
right.
start in 7 minutes. What's the guy's name? Storm Liquaqua? What?
Stormlit Aqua.
Stormlit Aqua? Okay,
Yeah.
give us a topic to talk about for 7 minutes before we start talking about Killer 7.
Yeah. Storm, just tell us what you want to talk
Come on,
about.
Storm. What do you want to hear?
I mean, sure, we're gonna be talking about Killer 7, but that'll be like boring probably.
Yeah, 7 minutes to Killer 7. So we have to figure out what we're talking about in the 7 minutes before then.
All right, he wants to talk about Persona 5.
Oh, is he doing that just to annoy me?
No, mostly me because he's saying he wants to talk about how bad Kasumi is in Persona 5 and why she's a bad waifu, and that's incorrect thinking. So, I mean that's wrong
I'm just gonna
thinking.
agree with him. I think anything related to Persona is awful. So
Well,
I agree.
there you go. Well, that is true for Persona 4, so, I guess you could take it either way.
Kasumi sucks, Theo. Get over it.
No, she's great. She's like
She's the worst.
relatable. She has like imposter syndrome. It's like it's something. Okay, I did not copy the link. I
All
don't know why
right,
I
wait.
didn't.
Okay, Theo, tell me why you like her.
Because she has like she has a cool design. I like her design, and I do like her. The whole story of her is interesting because she blames herself for the death of her sister because they were both gymnasts training, and Kasumi was like feeling depressed, like, oh, I'm not gonna be anywhere near as good as my sister. And then like she's moping around, she's crossing the street, about to get hit by a truck. Her sister pushes her out of the way, and then it's like, oh shit. And then like she has to like accept herself for what she is because like you
Why?
know
Because she's a shitty gymnast.
yeah, she has to accept who she is and and grow. Like she runs away from her past and she runs away from pain. And it's like that's not how you're supposed to live your life.
Imagine if Simone Biles had a shitty gymnast sister and she saved her. We'd be depraved of the greatest athlete of all time.
Well, I mean it's a little bit more nuanced than that. I mean you're looking
Kasumi
at
should
it.
kill herself.
Well, I mean, it's not like she killed herself on purpose. She was just crossing the street and she was like, not thinking. It's like an innocent. They're high schoolers. I mean, what are they supposed to do? Then Good Hunter Akira's asking, "What's the show about?" We're gonna be talking about Killer 7 because we beat the game. We always talk about it every week. This is the first time we're streaming it, so that's why. That's what this is about.
Yeah, so Killer 7 spoilers galore.
Yeah, so if you haven't played it, this is not the stream for
Because we're
you.
gonna be okay. Okay, we can actually do a recap of last time. Where were we? Um, I think we both had gotten past Curtis Blackburn, right? Or we've gotten to that dungeon.
We are like right. Last time we talked, we were like right at the end because you were saying you were like either a boss fight away or just like very close to the end, and I was saying I was just starting. I think I just started the second run to the hotel.
Second, oh, you were really close to the end too. When we last
Yeah.
talked?
I think I was just about to start that. Like I wasn't there. I was the stage before
Oh,
that, but I was like very close. It was just like I was like a boss fight away. But I do have some notes I took. I watched the video you sent me, about
yeah.
Killer 7. I also the video I sent you. I watched it. Took some notes. A few interesting things and some stuff. There's one thing that kind of just like you were saying how
Wait
the
a second.
huh?
Wait, are we supposed to wait to talk about this?
Oh yeah, I jumped the gun. I jumped the gun. I got too excited. I'm just saying I got notes. That's there you go.
You know, it's funny. I was watching some Suda interviews because of this, though, and I didn't realize that it makes so much sense after I heard him say it. But Travis Touchdown is supposed to be Johnny Knoxville.
Yeah, yeah. That's that I found out like much like I found that out through a Did You Know Gaming video. They
Yeah.
the email mentioned it, and then I was watching this guy's video and he was talking about it as well. Albedo, it's Johnny Knoxville. Have you ever seen Jackass? You know who Johnny Knoxville is. That's the only thing I know him from, I think, because he was a Jackass
Yeah, Jack had,
guy.
but he was in that movie The Ringer, where he like goes
Oh,
into the Special Olympics.
I've only seen the poster. I never really watched the movie. I was like, oh, okay, this is maybe not my kind of thing. There is one movie that's on HBO that's a very good documentary. It's called oh what's it called? It was like oh fuck. It's like about this park that it wanted to like have no safety precautions at all. Like it was just like, hey, just do whatever the fuck you want and whatever happens happens. Like it was like the biggest like liability issue park imaginable. Like it was a terrible place that was run. It might have been like live action. No. Oh my god, what's now I want to look it up. It was a good
It was
documentary.
on HBO. You said?
Yeah, it was on HBO Max. Oh, okay. It's action. It's Action Park. Yeah, that's the name of the movie. It's a class action park. It was a park that was opened that they had no safety precautions at all. Like they were just like, hey, if you want, they built like gigantic like dangerous slide, and they're like, yeah, a lot of people go down here and they leave with like broken bones. They like just terrible things, and it was just running for so long. Like people went there pretty much to see like is it true? Is there no like safety? And there was like nothing there. And then it's a very interesting documentary. I recommend it if you have HBO Max.
I'll watch it tonight.
Yeah, it's really good. He was
All
also
right,
in
so I
Bad
think we're
Grandpa,
at
but
7.
all right.
What?
Let's we can get into because
How many people we got watching?
let's see. We got one, two, three, four people, but that's pretty much par for the course. I always get like small
Pretty good.
numbers. Yeah, I'm glad. I always am glad to get what I get, but we're here talking about,
4 people.
huh?
Oh, sorry. I think there's a delay again.
Oh, of course. Do you want to? Do you want
You
to
know what
like
it might be?
what?
Okay, hold on. It might be the fact that you're streaming too. But let me try
Yeah.
something. Let me try to plug in. Hold on.
All
Give me
right.
2 seconds.
Okay.
Uh, Start talking to your audience.
Yeah, just Gamer John and I will be talking about Suda51, about Killer 7. For you small Suda51 fans, it's gonna be crazy. You know, I think I'm gonna change this viewer canvas. You've seen this one for way too long. Get this out of here. Gonzo. I probably should have read those No More Heroes books, because that is also Suda51 fodder. And I have a Suda51 ARP. I have all this other Suda51 stuff I could have brought, but it is what it is. I have other stuff that I could talk about the games.
All right, I'm plugged in now.
All right.
Wait. Let me turn off my Wi-Fi. We're gonna test something real quick.
Okay.
Hold on, because I want to make sure it's going through the wired network. All right. So let's do the counting thing. When I count to 3, you count with me, okay?
Okay.
All right. 1,
1,
2,
2,
3.
3.
It's off by like a second.
All right.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
We can deal with that.
Yeah, it's better
We can
than
deal
that
with that.
other like Google Hangout, which was like 5 seconds or whatever.
Yeah, and plugging in makes it way better too. So
Yeah. All right. So welcome to the first stream to Big Bun Game Club. We're gonna be talking about Space Jam: A New Legacy. I'm actually going off script. You know what? Killer 7 is like, it's a shitty game. Fuck that game. Now, Space Jam: A New Legacy. Welcome to the jam, everyone. I love the scene that when LeBron James just saw his son get pummeled by a basketball and said, "I like spaghetti and meatballs." I was blown away just by the delivery and the acting that LeBron James performed. It was so good. I think they should reshoot There Will Be Blood, but with LeBron James. He's like the best. What was your favorite Space Jam: A New Legacy scene?
well, it's probably the scene where he tricks Marvin the Martian into stealing a spaceship because that's all I saw of the movie.
Oh wow.
I didn't see it. I literally, my friend, well, it was actually my cousin. I went to my cousin's house. They had it on, but we were going somewhere else. It was the scene that was on. That was all I saw. It's actually kind of funny.
I ended up watching the whole movie, and I really feel like the person who made this movie was an insane person. It just seems so like insane how just the structure of it, like the story. I think the story feels like that they probably had an idea at some point, and then Warner Brothers came in and said, "No, we're changing the story to something else," and it just. Because they go into like, oh, the Looney Tunes are all split up, and they keep hyping up like there was some conflict with Bugs Bunny, and then like they re-recruit the Looney Tunes, and there was no issue at all. It was like, so why was there like some like tension with Bugs Bunny and Lola when there
Yeah,
was nothing there?
I actually lied because I saw a little bit more of it, but I wasn't paying attention. All I saw was that they were like referencing like every single Warner Brothers property
Yeah,
and just like inserting the Looney Tunes into it. Like at one point, I guess like Speedy Gonzalez was in the Matrix or something for some reason, and
they were all in
the
other
grandma
movies.
was Morpheus.
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
like that stuff like started to feel like an insane person was directing it because there was no like rhythm. It was just reference, 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 reference over and over. All right, we're not gonna really talk about Space Jam. That the
People
joke.
pissed off in the comments.
No. One person ew LeBron. That was the only response to it. But uh,
Okay, the one thing I want to say is why is everyone acting like LeBron James is supposed to be like an Oscar award winning actor?
it what's funny to me is
It's
that
a
like
fucking children's movie.
it. He's also a basketball player. Like he has not done movies or TV shows in
He
like
is the best.
ever.
That's all he is.
Yeah, and then like I watched Space Jam 1 just to compare it to A New Legacy. I will say Space Jam 1 is probably only better in the sense that it focused on a story. It didn't do these like throwaway like references that went nowhere. It felt more cohesive, but Michael Jordan is also terrible in that movie. These are basketball players just doing
Sure.
movies. And I understand like sure, you don't want like to say, "Oh, give bad movies a pass because they're kids movies," but at the same time like kids will just watch whatever. But you can criticize it, but it's also just like, this isn't like a big passionate movie to die on a hill for either.
Right. I could go both ways because there's like brilliant children's movies, but that's not the norm. So it's
Yeah,
like whatever, fuck it.
it's
Yeah.
it's whatever. But we're here talking
I,
about
I
killers.
will say one more thing. Just because it's a cultural thing of like that reference humor is just that's just our generation. It's not even like that's what people do is they just reference things. Like they don't make jokes. They're just like, oh look, it's something you recognize. It's like the South Park episode of Member Berries or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So we're here talking about Killer 7. That joke went on way too longer than I thought it would go. I thought it was gonna be like a 2 minute thing, ended up being 16 minutes. But uh, we're here talking about Killer 7. So I'm actually gonna start with some trivia before we get into like the story stuff because some of the stuff I found out was actually really interesting. The one thing I do want to bring up is, let's see, where is it? Story me. Well, I guess I'll go down the list. Okay, so you were talking about earlier how the dialogue with the ghosts, if you listen to it, it made like other sense. Like they say, the stuff that they say is different from what's on the subtitles. The reason why that is because in Japan, the Japanese version of Killer 7 has English voices. It's all done with English dialogue. But what they did with the Ghost though is that they fed the dialogue in a text to speech program, and it just kind of translated to whatever. So when they were localizing the game, instead of just like trying to translate what that program spat out, it was like, okay, we'll just jumble the dialogue and then just have the subtitles be what's actually there.
Wait a second. What? So they wait. Where'd you read that?
This was the video I sent you from, it's the YouTube channel GHENRY. He has a video series called Deadly Individualism, and he was talking about the ghosts that when he talked to like Iwazaru, Travis, etc. When he talked to them in the Japanese version, like he meant the reason why he brought it up was because Killer 7 was the game that started the initiative that Suda51 wanted to do with his company, where he wanted to have more of a Western appeal. Like, he wanted, because initially, Killer 7 was going to make more connections with his other games, like the Silver Case, and there was another game he did before this as well. But when he realized, oh, this is going to go worldwide, he decides, well, then we'll just shift this to be more appealing to Western audiences. So then it started being focused on its own thing. So everything in the game is just done in English, but with the Japanese game, when it was the ghosts, it was either some program or some technique they did with the dialogue where this program just translated the Japanese into English, and that's what they put into the game. Then for the English release, for the Western devs, they were like, well, it's not going to make any sense if we keep it as it is and just change the subtitles. So instead of just dealing with the audio differences, we'll just jumble the audio and then just have the text be what it's supposed to be. That's why, like, there is some words you can make out. It's just that it's overall jumbled. Like, it doesn't make a whole picture.
So when you say jumble, do they just like slice different parts of the audio and put them in different places?
It was stuff like that, and yeah, it was probably that, and it was probably also like they just layered it on top of other stuff as well. It could have been just some audio filters, whatever. It's his video
Okay.
also shows the original Japanese version as well to compare the two because they're both very different. Like the Japanese version
Okay.
doesn't have that like layer to it.
I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna have to see that. By the way, I tried to watch that video, but that guy bored me to sleep.
Oh,
Like I couldn't even. I was like, this stinks.
oh man.
Some of the shit he was saying, like he said so many things in absolutes, like he knew what he was talking about. I'm like, I don't think you really know this. I think you're making this up. Some of the things he said, I'm like, I'm pretty sure you're making this up, because something about just that right there, I can think of specific examples where like, okay, for instance, one the child ghost, the one that talks to you about like the like heaven smile bosses before.
Yeah.
Distinctly remember the words he's saying are completely different. Like he says, the subtitle says like family wanted, and you can hear him say mother and father.
Well,
It's completely different words. So that sounds like bullshit. I don't like this guy. I'm gonna fuck him up. He's a
uh,
liar.
no. Well, you guys, actually, maybe you proved his point though, because you only said like two words he said, and that was like a whole sentence he said. So I mean, they jumbled it up.
But I'm saying there's those words aren't in the subtitles at all. Like they never say, it never says it in the subtitles. He's saying completely different words.
Well, maybe. I mean,
But they mean the same thing. They mean the same thing, but he's saying completely different words. I want some citation for what the fuck he
yeah.
said because I think he's making shit
I'll
up.
I'll find that clip and I'll just copy the time link to it. But anyways, the other thing he said
Send that to me
as
because I want to
well,
see what he says.
because I mean, some of the stuff I just kind of was doing like little quick annotations, so I wouldn't have to like write the whole thing. The other thing was he brought up that before this game, like, and this one I do kind of agree with, because Suda51 has a fascination with death. Almost every game he makes, there's always some commentary with death, and that was because he worked as a groundskeeper at a cemetery, so he was able to see all these people come and go and dealing with death. So when he worked on Fire Pro Wrestling in Japan, this was a big issue. Not a big issue, but a big thing, because it dealt with like suicide and all this stuff that was going on with it. Like his girlfriend leaves the main character, the main character's coach and tag team partner gets murdered. So like that happened. Everyone was like, "This is supposed to be a wrestling game, as dealing with all these like complex themes and like all this." This guy goes to the top and he's like not satisfied, and all this stuff fucked up happens to him. He commits suicide. So that was like the first taste of that. So I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then Capcom gave him.
Well, that's what made him famous. Famous because he just like wrote this complex scenario for just some stupid arcade wrestling game, and you know that the only reason he got that job is because some guy quit or just like up and left.
Yeah.
They're like, can you join us? And he's like, I mean, can you re-interview? He's like, I guess. And they just hired him on the spot because they're like, fuck it, we have no one else.
Yeah, I heard that from the guy who said it sucks. That's where I got that information from. So I mean,
I heard it from Scooter himself. So,
the other thing was that Mikami co-wrote the story with Suda51 on Killer 7, so he did have a hand on it. And Capcom gave him complete freedom. So, and Suda never questioned the freedom that Capcom gave him. He was like, "Yeah, sure, I have freedom, sweet," and he was happy with what he got. He was never like, "Why is a seasoned company giving me this freedom? It makes no sense." He just accepted it and went with it. Let's see. Beginning originally was going to connect his earlier work. Said that story was made. The other thing was that since he realized that this game was gonna have a Western release, he decided to make the story more simple, which is funny when you look at the game. It's like where was it? I guess it's more simple in the sense of what it was gonna be before, because the Silver Case was another game that's very fucking out there as well. That's another game that's like confusing, but I guess in relation to that, it might be simpler. I played a little bit of it. I didn't get far, and it's so gonzo with it, because they hype up this guy named Kamui as this guy who has immense criminal power, and I kind of want to play it again, like, because the beginning is so weird. You see this girl that talks about how she loves Kamui, and you can't touch him, don't you fucking go after him, all this stuff, and then she ends up committing suicide, and then shit happens. And then, like, you later on you go to another apartment complex a little bit later on in the beginning, and you find the guy, but then you find out that the guy's an imposter, and then it's like, what's going on? And then it has another side story that goes along with it, that you play as a like a reporter going after Kamui. So it's like two stories going side by side, and it's so confusing. It's great, but it's also the most visual novel kind of story. There's no gameplay at all. This one is more of like a point and click
Oh,
adventure, because like you're just kind of going around areas and just clicking where you want to go. It's interesting. I like the music. The story's good, but if you like reading, reading is kind of the you're gonna have to love reading. There's no voice acting at all in it. Uh
alright. So it's
so
more like a book.
yeah, it's literally a visual novel. Like this one has a lot of reading in it. But it's interesting, like the
Okay.
remaster does a lot to make it a little bit more like presentable. Like it has a nice like visuals to it, but and I was gonna say like the scenes in Killer 7 where you see like the map and you're going from point A to point B or whatever, like between missions, that kind of reminded me of the Silver Case, because the Silver Case kind of had the same kind of, okay, you're going
Oh.
here to you're going over there. It's like, oh, it's just like that. Uh,
Was it the
so
same way where it zooms out, then zooms in, or is it
kinda it is, it kind of does that. It's a little bit more like, it's a little bit more over the top, I think, because it has like 3D like models for things. Like it shows a car, like you're seeing a car drive down a street. It's out there. Uh, so yeah, the Japanese version is has English audio, except for Ayanami. Obviously, that's like the only character that keeps the Japanese audio.
Well,
Okay.
wait a second. So, and all the voice actors are the same?
Yeah, I think. Like
I need to see the
I'll have to check, because like it's in English. I don't know if they hired different people, but but it is in English. Like he played a clip from the Japanese game, and it did have English audio. So I don't know if he played a clip that had the main characters talking,
it
but
would it would make sense because the voice acting it would make sense why the voice acting is so good.
yeah,
Because if they only hired one team of voice actors instead of for a
yeah.
localization team, because
It
they
has
didn't
like
use
Tara
shitty
Strong.
anime voice actors.
Yeah, because it had like,
Yeah.
and I was looking at it, I was like surprised. Like Greg Eagles, I was like, okay, he's there, obviously, but I could have sworn I knew I heard Jennifer Hale, and I was like, wow, they got her, but that was like a one-off character, so I was like, okay, whatever, for one character, sure. But they had Tara Strong be Kaede, which I was like, I didn't even pick that up. I was
Yeah.
like, holy shit. Uh, the other thing was that Student 51 with Killer 7 wanted to prioritize presentation. So like the story kind of goes along with that, so like it's meant for you to replay it, but it is kind of clear that the look and style of the game was what he prioritized. Like the story being what it was win with the style and presentation. That's why the gameplay is kind of like, it's not super deep. It's deep enough for what it is, but it's not like complex where other games might be showing
Well,
off. But
as far as I understand it, it's the first game he made that's not like a visual novel, right? Like everything else he made was a visual novel up to that point.
yeah, yeah. Well, I guess unless you count like Fire Pro Wrestling, because that one isn't a visual novel.
He didn't
But
make that.
yeah,
He
he
just
wrote.
wrote the scenario for it.
Yeah. So there was that, and then he also wanted to attract people who he wanted to attract people who never played video games with how this game controlled. Which, like, what I was thinking about was like, at first like that's kind of silly because it's such a weird game, but then I was like, well, I guess it makes sense because you would just instantly try to press a button to move. Like that's like the most like, if you give your mom the controller, that's probably the first thing she'd do. Just, oh, I'll press a button, see what that does. So, I guess to a degree that makes sense. But I think once that person plays it, they're probably just gonna be like, no, I'm not gonna continue. So it's a dual-edged sword with that.
I mean, from a gameplay perspective, maybe it would make sense, but it's just such a weird, scary, creepy, strange game that it it couldn't accomplish that. There's no way it would accomplish that goal.
It's, I think maybe if it's, it might have been in the idea that he wanted to trick people into playing it just to play it and then see if they'd stick with it or not. So I guess that kind of deal. And then this one was a side thing, which I think is it goes with the story that the main characters that you play as kind of reject normal like chosen one messiah narratives. Like, oh, these are the chosen ones that are destined for greatness. All of these are non-conforming. They kind of just are not destined for anything, which is pretty much every Suda 51 character. Like they're all kind of losers in their own way.
That's okay. That's the weird thing, and we might be getting to spoiler territory or whatever with this. But like, if because I don't really understand who like, I still don't get this. Who is the Who are you playing as in the game?
Okay, see now. I was going into the ending thinking it was gonna be a complete mind fuck, ready to be confused. I think I cracked the code on this game. I think I understand. I think I know what's going on. Like, what?
Wait. Before you go into this, let me say that I think that anyone who thinks they understand the narrative of Killer 7 and think it's coherent, I think they're an asshole, and I never want to speak to them again.
Oh, well, this might be the end. This might be the end of our friendship, I guess. Guys, this might be the last episode. Charles will probably never talk to me ever again after this. So, it was a good one. I like doing Big Bun Game Club. It was different having someone else. I'll find a replacement. Don't worry, Charles. You're replaceable. I'll get like someone down the street, just walking down, and he'll play games. All right. Well,
let's hear it. Let's hear it.
I will say there is a degree that like a lot of it is just kind of like I think it's open for any interpretation. Anyway, but the way I took it, because the second run of that hotel, this is kind of where it started to hit me. So you're going through this and you're seeing all of the main characters getting killed. You're seeing Dan, you're seeing Kaede, you're seeing everyone getting murdered, and you don't know who's getting murdered at first. And you're forced to play as Garcia at this point. And as you're going up each floor, you're seeing that, and you get to the roof. And this is when it was ringing in my mind. He opens the briefcase and it's all of the weapons of those characters, and he starts to freak out. He starts to like break down, feeling guilty and saying, "I didn't know, it was a misunderstanding," all this stuff. So what I think is you're playing as Garcia the whole time, but the personas that he has is his guilt, because that's why the whole game Garcia never really addresses what happens, because it's locked away. That's why like they address him as Garen later after that point, because he didn't know he was Garen. Like, you're getting all of these reports like, "I'm gonna fucking kill you, Garen. The Smiths are coming for you," and this and that. And it's like when you're reading this, you're just like, this is.
Wait a second. Wait. Are you talking about the messenger pigeon things?
The messenger pigeons do play a role in the narrative. They do have a story that's being told there, because those messenger pigeons always start with "Dear Egrin," or what? The whole "Dear Grin." They always are addressing that one guy in every message.
And he's like, "You haven't paid me yet."
Huh?
And he keeps going, "How you haven't paid me yet?"
Yeah.
Like, I keep giving you this information. Wait, are you saying those are addressed to Garcian?
Yeah, because Garcian is just another personality that he just got because like you go to the roof and you're seeing this other guy that looks just like Garcian but younger, and then you shoot him, and that Garcian also has a third eye, and this was something I learned from playing Indivisible and just in basic mythology or whatever, that the third eye always represents like all-knowing and you're seeing the truth and all this stuff. Like the third eye always represents like you're seeing another dimension, whatever. And it's so telling after you shoot that character, Garcian starts to realize what really is going on. And then it goes into like why he sees young Harmon at the end. That's why Harmon also exists. Like at first you think Harmon is a personality, but he isn't. He's actually a real person. And then at the end you see Harmon being killed, like he's dead on the ground. And that also explains why like Harmon and Kung Lao gets shot down in that forbidden room. Now, That said, I will say the only thing that kind of opens the door for like what the fuck is the epilogue. The epilogue does kind of is kind of a the epilogue represents kind of like how you've done all this stuff and it means for nothing because it's just an endless cycle. There'll always be war. There will always be good and bad. This whole thing is gonna keep be ongoing. But it's just in terms of like the Smiths and Garcian, I think those insulated characters are just representing a smaller picture of the whole. Like you might not get a good idea of like who is Kun Lao, who are the Heaven Smiles, and that kind of stuff. But I do think that the killers, the Smiths, are just the guilt that Garcian inherited after he killed all of them through that hotel because he killed them and when you see him at the top of the hotel, he was a young guy, so he was killing them not really thinking. He was just like, oh, I'm being paid to kill these people. Fuck it, and he just kills them all. And then and then you see him now when he's older, and he's just like, oh shit, and it just kind of hit him. That's kind of how I saw it at the end. Like I think the Smith.
Wait, you didn't explain shit.
What did I explain? I explained why like they're all personalities. They don't really exist. And you play as Garcian, just switching through his personalities.
You described what happened, but none of it makes any fucking sense.
What
Like, okay, first of all, Dan Smith dies like 3 times. Is everyone just immortal in this game? I don't understand.
when was when did he die the other 2 times? He died in the hotel. He died
Curtis killed him.
Did
Yes, that's the whole thing. He's like, I'm gonna have to kill you again.
Oh, okay. Now, okay, well,
Yeah.
but
And then
wait, but
another...
who is to say that Curtis
Okay.
is talking to Dan though? When he meet him, does Curtis say hi Dan? Does he say hello Dan Smith? What's up? Or does he just say I have to kill you
Fair
again?
enough. That, that's actually a very fair point. And
Because the thing that's
but
in
never mind. Hole in that theory too, because like because I was gonna say, okay, maybe everyone just sees Garcian when they see a Smith, but then uh that chef guy refers to Mask as Mask when he headbutts the
true.
bullet.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, actually, I'd have to replay that part.
yeah, because if it's just him headbutting it, I mean, who would say Garcian? Because the thing is, Garcian, like, there was a part in the principal's office where he gets like a cut along his forehead, and it starts bleeding. So it's like maybe there's something there. Okay, Just Gamer John, how am I getting the lore wrong?
Well, that's supposed to be like
I'm getting it right. I'm 100%
Wait, what?
right. Someone in my chat said I'm getting the lore wrong.
Someone's calling you out.
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about.
Tell him to explain. Tell him to explain.
Explain how I got the
Tell
lore
him to explain
wrong.
what you got wrong.
Yeah, which part? Garcian is a shapeshifter. Well, that's a shit post. but
Well, that's what you're saying.
well, he's not a shapeshifter in the literal sense. I just think that you're seeing what he's like you're seeing what he's turning into, but he's not like turning into. He's not literally becoming those characters. Like he's not literally becoming Dan. He's not literally becoming this because these other characters, I don't think they ever address the other personalities. I've never seen one address Kaede, Khan, Coyote. Like none of these other characters. I don't remember them ever addressing them. It's just kind of because every time you go to a major story room, it always forces you to be either Harmon or Garcian all the time. It never. The only time it forces a character was with Curtis.
There's a couple,
but those are also kind of weird occurrences that are just like, is it just doing that just to fuck with the player to not, because you can't really. I feel like that it does those just so that the player doesn't know the twist at the end. Because if they don't show you like becoming Dan, let's say when you're in the island area, if they don't show you transform to that and they say okay, well you'll be Garcian, that will kind of tip the hand that oh, maybe you are Garcia the whole time. Like it, I think the whole game just wants you to think that these are all people, and you're just gonna see why these are all the same personality. And then at the end, it explains it, and you're like, oh, so it recontextualizes all these other events.
I think I think you're putting too much into that because um Suda said himself that they had to cut 2/3 of the story content, and he said that all of it was content that was supposed to flesh out the characters. So like
But
he literally said Coyote was supposed to die, like, and be gone from your personas. Like
yeah,
he was
but
like that was a planned part of the whole
well,
thing.
yeah, but what's it say? Like when he says Coyote's gonna die, does that mean that like he's saying that the personality is gonna die? Not like the person is dead because Garcian killed him, and Garcian got that
Right.
personality because he felt guilty. So if Coyote's personality was gonna die, that was just gonna mean that Garcian either accepted that or something happened with Garcian's
Yeah.
mental state. So it could have been that too. I think what I think also
I think you're giving it too much credit. You're giving it too much credit for trying to like throw you off. I think if he had his way, everyone was going to have special bosses.
well, there was a quote from Suda51 though that said that the game that Killer 7 came out the way he wanted to. Like he was happy with how the game turned out. Like he was able to make the game he wanted. I didn't hear about the cut content stuff. That I didn't hear about in both videos that I watched.
Yeah,
But
the 2/3. He said they had to cut 2/3 out of the story, which is a ton.
yeah. But I think ultimately though, I still think even with the 2/3, it could still lead credence to what I'm thinking, because I think ultimately I don't even think the 2/3 would even address what's being told. I think it was just gonna be uh uh it would still be up to the player. Like I think no one is gonna be wrong with how they took this game. Because I feel like with this game and with even with David Lynch films, I think you could interpret anything. Like everything's open to be interpreted in a way that it it is meant to be discussed, and that's why it's like an art form as well. Like it's meant to be like something you're supposed to pick apart and say, does this mean something? Does that mean something? Like the only thing that Suda51 came out and this said had no meaning was the odd engravings. The odd engravings in the shell seeds. He said those have no particular meaning to them. So it's like, okay, that's like the only thing that he said. And then I didn't even know there was a book that was published to explain the lore of Killer 7, but that whole book was not didn't help at
Yeah.
all. It contradicts stuff that's in the game. It doesn't explain anything new. And then the comic book that they made is just trash. So I mean that's also not important either.
Have you read the comic?
No, I saw the art in that video I sent you, and I was like, I don't need to read that. That whole book looks so trash. Because like,
Really?
yeah, and I agreed with what the guy said because he said that the smiles look like generic demonic monsters, and I was like, oh, that's nope. Because like the smiles were such a big part of the enemies, and just seeing that is being degraded to be like, oh, they're demonic stuff. Is like, okay, this is just probably gonna be leaning on the Spawn side of tone. I feel with the comic. I think they just wanted to be like a Spawn novel,
Yeah.
but I think that the story was interesting. I don't think I don't think it's as I don't think it's hard to understand. I think there is a thread of that kind of strings along because it does connect to the government stability. Now, I got a question. When you go through that hallway and you meet that guy, did you kill him or did you keep him alive?
Kept them alive.
I I did both, but I killed him first because I was like, ah, if he's just gonna keep coming after me, I'll just kill him. So I killed him, and I reloaded the file again to see the other ending, and I liked how they're both like complete opposites of each other, pretty much. Like one is like, okay, the U.S. nuked Japan, like they did what they were gonna do, and then the other one was like
Yeah.
the UN invaded or something. It was like something the opposite. And I so it does tie into like what I said in the beginning with like the whole stability because it does talk a lot about world peace. Like I forgot that there was a plot point where there was no nukes in the beginning. Like they were like, oh, we all like lived in world peace and we had no nuclear missiles anymore. And it's like, oh, I forgot about that plot point because it was so early in the game. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, well, this was a part of the story. Oh, I remember now. But yeah, it was interesting. I like that.
That's the thing about this game is that there's plot like if you follow one part of the plot, it like kind of sort of makes sense. But then everything else contradicts it. So it's like, oh wait, this doesn't make if you think something makes sense, it doesn't make sense because some other shit that happens. And like I think the best way to interpret this game is it's all an allegory for how politics is bullshit and everything is just like nothing really fucking matters because they're just gonna do whatever they do because like someone controls. It's like I think Harmon and Kunlan or whatever the fuck his name is. That's why they're playing their little friendly chess game because they
Yeah,
just control this little war that's going on all the time. They don't really care what happens, just that it's always happening.
and like
That's like the allegory of the whole thing.
yeah, and like when you see Kun Lao in some of the scenes in the past, he's only there just to show that he's influencing events, like he's influencing how things pan out. Uh, so I think it deals with that, and it does, and I think like all these things are all just like themes of stuff as well. Not Eternal.
Well,
Yoshi
that's
brings
what I'm
up.
saying.
Oh, I was gonna say like this person in chat brought up that the game's about an eternal struggle of East versus West, as well. I to a point that's true because it's obviously just pitting Japan versus the U.S. But the UN does have a stake as well because they were talking about like how I guess it does go back to East versus West because I guess you could see it as the U.S. wants Japan out of the UN so they could bomb them, so they don't have to worry about the UN going against them if that happens. But because in the second level when you're going through that like Japanese house, like the whole game tells you if you kill this guy, Japan will be out of the UN. Do you really want that to happen? If that happens, then America can send missiles over here. And the whole game just keeps telling you that over and over in that area. So when you kill them and when you kill the guy at the very end, that's what happens. So,
Right, yeah. But it's like, I don't know.
I
I
don't
just
think it's that,
think that
huh? There you go.
it's just like, it's so. All of the battles that happen, like all the actual missions you do, are like so inconsequential. They don't really fucking matter. Like,
Mm,
they just kind of happen. And I think
I felt
it's actually would be interesting if Killer 7 came out like now as an episodic game because I don't think it's supposed to be consumed as a whole story. I think it's just like little things that happen, and the only reason people try to lump it together as like a complete narrative is because it's one game. But I think if it came out now, it wouldn't come out as one game. It would just be like, all right, here's it. We came out with a new dungeon, and we just like made this pack of 3 episodes, and it would just keep going until Pseudo was like, all right, I'm done doing this, because like it's just fucking stupid.
I
It's like
I think it was
everything is just symbolism of not to no means of anything. It just everything. I think all of the episode, every level can just be interpreted as its own thing.
I kind of felt that after I think it was like especially after the Almeida stuff. After that point, that stuff felt a little kind of like like filler. But then when you get to the hotel, I think that's kind of when it went back to like I because like when it goes to like the government stability and like all this stuff, like the hotel segment kind of ties back into uh the government kind of stuff they threw in the beginning of of the game. So I know I get where you're coming from because I kind of felt, and that's also probably why the handsome men kind of felt so jarring out of the whole game because that had no relevance because and it ends as it's a video game, so it pretty much is saying that whole level was pretty much a video game and that could be just taken out and you don't really have to worry about it. And that's really and this was nothing I loved about about the last part of the game. When you go through the character select, the game changed what they said all the time. Like, oh, you pick Kay and she says what in this level or whatever. When you go to the end game of Killer 7, it goes back to the beginning of what they said in the very first level, where like you go to Mask, it says, "I'm not a monster, it's a mask." And in the beginning, you're just like, "Yeah, it's a mask, of course." But then we see at the very end of the game, like, oh, because he looks so fucking demonic now. Like it connects way more there. And all this, like it starts to get like
fair enough.
it's a nice kind of thing. But that's why I think that like these characters are just personalities that Garcian inherited after he killed them because he felt guilty. Because like the video game part of it is so like gonzo, and that's why like Dan has like an animated cutscene in that fucking part. Like they haven't animated Dan or anyone else before except for that part of the game. And like that's why I think it's these characters don't exist at all. Like it's just you're just seeing Garcian just go about the whole thing, and you're not in the know of that.
So, so are you saying none of it happened because Garcian, well, Amir shoots himself in the face after he kills all those people. If you don't, if you remember, so that's why that part doesn't make any sense. Because what are the rules with this shit? Because he shoots himself, and
But
then what is he just having a flashback? Like, and
I
then all of a sudden he's just himself again.
I think the other issue with Killer not it, well it's not an issue. I think the other thing to keep in mind is that it's never really clear when anything takes place. It just things just happen. There's no like time. They don't they don't really tell you when these things are, when these events happened. Like you could be because I was also thinking maybe you're reliving like memories of these characters in these other stages. But then I was like, well, no, that wouldn't make sense for other parts. So I think it's a little bit more like nuance into what things are like things what are things, because the other thing is that you could also see that maybe the other thing is that Amir has psychic powers as well, which is why like he can bring the characters back, and that's why he could kill it. Like he killed himself, but was able to revive himself. And then after that experience, he was like, "Well, these other personalities I can revive because I'm reviving myself." Like that proves my point. That I think is why these are more of personalities that Amir inherited than anything else. Because if he's able to shoot himself and come back to life, then you could argue that all these other instances where all these other characters die is just him reviving himself. Like he's not reviving the character, he's reviving himself each time.
But where does Harmon come into this?
Harmon is a real person. Like he's not a figment of imagination, because you see a young Harmon talking to Garcia and whatever like many times, even when he was younger. Like he was you were talking to him and all this stuff, like as a apprentice or master kind of thing. I so And I think like when you go to like these rooms where he's just kind of there with that woman and all this time, and the woman is kind of dismissive, whatever. He if she ends up getting killed at some point, and I think that I don't know, like the stuff with Harmon is a little like wishy washy, because as I said, even the epilogue kind of throws a wrench in the theory as well. Because because he fills both Harmon and Kun Lao with bullets, and then they show up again at the epilogue. So like the Harmon stuff is kind of like
Wait a
whatever.
second. Wait a second. Because who do you think killed Harmon and Kunlan?
I think it's Garcian.
No, it was young Harmon did it.
Really?
You can see. Yes, he steps in and then he shoots him with a Tommy gun.
That does make sense because of the how fast the bullets. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. You see the foot. You see the foot, and then he blows him away with a Tommy gun. So that makes no fucking sense either. the fuck is going on in this game?
I that's why I think like like time and like all this stuff, like it doesn't really explain the rules, because I think even if you like accept that, oh, Garcian is psychic and he can revive dead bodies, a guy can grab on a bullet and like just ride it all the way, like I think all these things are stuff that are just kind of there. And and I think what it is as well is I think Suda probably just wanted to make a game.
Wait a second. Wait a second. No, so I think you're like. That's why I think it doesn't make sense to try to explain this game, like
Yeah.
as a cohesive narrative, because you're saying things that don't matter that do matter, like Kunlan grabbing the bullet and riding
But
it
why does that
is
matter?
like some. It's because it's some anime bullshit, and that's the whole point. Because it's like Americans have old ass men shooting big old guns, and that's like what we like. And then the like Eastern audiences like anime bullshit, like magic men flying around on bullets, and that's the whole like these two are like deities that represent East and West, and like of just the bullshit action stuff we like, and they're like creating this war between the two sides.
Yeah. Well, so I think I'll walk
But it's like
back.
all of it, all that matters is the symbolism. Like the game, like the actual events that are happening mean fucking nothing. It's all
Yeah.
an allegory
I
to
I
like the struggle of world politics and how it means nothing.
I think okay, so I'll probably just walk back what I said initially. Maybe it's not, you know, it's not that I'm saying that I didn't mean to say. So I'll look back, like it's not cohesive. You have a point with that. I agree with that. I just think that there is stuff. I just think the stuff that's going on is so interesting that I think that this is what's going on. Like I do think that like Garcian has killed these people, and this is just his guilt. That is just kind of him accepting all this stuff. I just think that ultimately with Killer 7, the way that the story is presented and how it's told, I think is just it's never meant to really stick a flag on something. Like it's not saying this is what it means and you'll get it if you play it 1,000 times. I think really the way he designed it was that like a lot of people have dunked on this game saying that there's no replay value. Oh, there's no like new modes. Like there's new modes, but they're just kind of whatever modes. But there's nothing of substance. But the substance is just replaying and seeing what you can kind of pick up on. Because I think no matter how many times you've watched it or played it, you're getting something new out of it each time. Like even like Ava, that show I talked about in the last episode with Serial Experiment Lane. Each time I've watched those shows, I get new things out of it. Especially Serial Experiment Lane. That show, there's stuff in that show that I think is just there just to fuck with you. Like there's the stuff that it just doesn't make any sense, but there's like a theme with that as well. And then so I was reading some stuff that Yoshi, another viewer, was saying. So he says that I remember that it's some magic type bullshit that lets Harmon Garcian take the psyches of other killers connected to them and physically turn into them. So there's that. And then he says it's some Japanese only lore book that goes into detail and transformation part. Iwazaru calls you Emir very early in the first level, which I didn't even I forgot about that. He does call you Emir in the beginning of the game. When you start the game, he calls you Emir, or at least he says the name.
I kind of remember that.
Yeah.
I gotta start. I'm gonna play again now.
But that's why I think like I don't think that Suda really designed this game to be like he. I don't think it's a game or a story that anyone can be right or wrong with what they take out of it. People can claim that it's cohesive if they want. I'm sure you could make an argument with that, but I don't think anyone's gonna agree because there's so much stuff in this game that you could just kind of pick out and be like, well, no, what about this and what about that? Like, I think it's just the discussion of it is kind of what makes this game amazing and why I fucking love it. I think that the fact that we can have a discussion where it's like, well, I think Garcian killed these people, then you're like, well, no, that's bullshit because this happens. Like, that is what's kind of fun about it, because it's not, no one can be right with this game. There's no like right or wrong answers with it.
Anyone who says I'm 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 anti anyone saying this game has a cohesive narrative. I just don't. I don't. I think it's a big mistake to try to look at it that way too. Like because you're always overlooking something that else that happened. I think it's
Yeah.
all a bunch of just symbols put together presented as this game. Like
I mean, there
none of it makes sense.
yeah, it's. I mean, like as I said, like there is like a thread that is woven through, but it's nothing that the game really focuses on or like makes it a major point. It's just it's there just so that the game kind of ends. Like it just ends. It's like, yeah, okay, we'll address this when we get to it. Okay, okay, there's the missile strikes. Okay, roll credits. It's like it's stuff that's going on, but all the stuff that it kind of accentuates other stuff. Like it's kind of more like there's this serious debate that's going on with these global relations with like the US, Japan, the UN. All these things are very serious and very like important, but it's surrounded by all this other bullshit that's kind of there to distract you. It's and this the video you sent me made me think about it a little bit where because I don't know if it was if he mentioned this in regards to the game, but he was talking about like how, oh, I should care about politics, but like I want to be distracted with all these other stuff. Like I want like watch movies or whatever. And I think that's what Killer 7 also represents. Like there's this important thing that's going on, but there's all this other stuff that's going on that's far more interesting that just pulls your attention away. And that's why you're focusing
Yeah,
on the
there's
having
Power Rangers
smiles.
that want to kill you that are just
Yeah, like all this stuff is there just to distract you from what's going on in the game's government. Like because like the government scenes when you see like all these like politicians talking, they never really talk about Kung Lao, the smiles, or anything. They're just kind of like, yeah,
like,
fuck you. I we can't agree. You know, it's these young kids these days. Fuck them. It's like, oh shit. Like I did love the scene with Garcian and the politician in the school. That was one of my favorite scenes, where he's like, "All right, if you win
so weird.
the Russian, let's play Russian roulette. If I win, you have to kill the president. If you win, I'll tell you the trick to get all the ladies." He's like, "All right," and he's like, "All right, see now I already won. You know I won." He's like, "Nope. There's a two more bullets or no two more like holes whatever." He told him the trick and he's like, "You can't fucking fool me." He's like, "Fuck, god damn." He kills himself and pretty much says like, "There is no trick. They're all the same."
Yeah,
Which
so
is
stupid. Again, I think that's another piece of symbolism that's just like nothing. I think it's all just nihilism. Like nothing matters.
yeah, and and I think he does a good job showing that these politicians are so like they're out of touch and they all just don't give a shit about anything else. Like the fact that he has this chauvinistic thing that's like his last thing he tells you is that they're all the same is like, yeah, this guy's a fucking old ass man that he just gets all these ladies because he's rich. Like of course he's gonna see them as that because he like he's fucking rich and shit. So like it's interesting and you can also see like with like and I think like with each stage I think Suda was also interested in just going through these this commentary of just individualistic things. Like they he talks about like American cults with Almeida. You know, how Almeida took over this little village and it became a cult there, which is like another that's which is like a thing that has been like a folklore within America pretty much. Like that's been a thing. And then you have like the handsome men, which is a Japanese kind of like cultural thing that he's talking about with that level. So I think like and that's why like you said like
Which
it goes
that's
with the
super.
episodic thing.
Yeah, but that handsome man thing really threw me off because it's super confusing because it would make sense if they were created by the Japanese government, but unless I heard it wrong, they said they're created by the American government, right?
I don't remember. I
and the guy was in Dominican Republic, the artist. I didn't really get that. I was like, this doesn't make sense because like those Sentai type Power Ranger dudes is definitely like
Well,
an Asian thing.
okay, so it was an American dude that was the artist. What I think it might also be is that, well, actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, it could, because when you look at the handsome men, just if you look at them, they're all kind of like, they're not exactly what Japanese people would have done with that kind of, like, if you look at like Sentai stuff, like Power Rangers and all that, they're always like well fit. They're all like, whatever. The handsome men, it's like there's like two women. There's like a fat guy that's there. That makes like there wouldn't be a fat man in a group like that. So I think what it is that it's showing that an American who thinks that, oh, this is what Japanese culture would be like it's like a fanfic almost. Like, have you ever seen the show Megas XLR?
Yeah,
There was an
pretty
episode
awesome actually.
a great show, but there was an episode that did the same thing. They had like a Power Rangers kind of like spin-off cast, which was also like over the top gonzo dumb kind of shit. And it's like, oh yeah, like, so I think it's like that kind of stuff. And then you have that, comparing to the Killer 7, where it's like, yeah, this is like a Japanese, and look how like tame and like style they have. While like the American would make something tacky and stupid and like over the top. Like, it's kind of like criticizing how over the, like, how different the two styles are, pretty much. Because the other thing that video also brings up at the
Yeah,
very
I'll
end,
buy that all.
huh? You're gonna buy that all?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say
Go
like
ahead. Finish what you're saying.
I was gonna say, in that video at the very tail end, I think what I liked was he says that like Studio 51 pretty much in 2005 already criticized the homogeny of all these protagonists with the main cast of Killer 7, how unique and different they are. Like, it's already like kind of like saying like, yeah, yeah, look at all these, look at him now, where it's all the same kind of brooding kind of character. So that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. Well, what I was gonna say is, I don't get why the handsome men fight the Killer Seven.
Well, I if the Japanese made the Killer 7, like if that was a Japanese government thing, the Americans would naturally want someone to kill them
Oh,
because
wait a
of
second.
that.
Okay, that actually does make sense because that school where Amir is from was run by the Japanese government, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't that a thing?
Yeah, because they rigged the election.
So really, Killer Seven, but really, Killer Seven were pretending to fight for the Americans.
I think they were just fighting for themselves in that fight. I because like they were like going after them to kill
No, I'm
them.
saying just in general, though, right? Because if Garcian, who's a mirror, is in control of them, and he came from that school, I guess I'd have to re-listen to those audio tapes again because I didn't really, at the end, I was just looking for the fucking clues out of the tapes, so I didn't really listen to what was going on because like Garcian or Amir died, but like died too early or something. I didn't
Well,
really
no, the thing
take
that
much out of
the thing that guy discovered, which he said what the fuck to, was that he said that Emir was born in 1950 or something. He said that can't be right because he'd be like 50 years old if that was true. So he didn't believe the report that he found. He was like, how does that make any sense? How can he be this age if he's born that early? Like, I think when that guy was going through the school, he started realizing that the story
Yeah,
that
what
was
the
told
fuck?
to him, he was like, things are not adding up because something is fucked up in the school. Okay, so Emir is a product of a perfect Eastern and Western ideological mix. That's why you choose at the end whether or not to nuke Japan. So he's a mix. He's a hybrid kind of guy. He's a little bit of both. But I think
I
like,
guess that kind of makes sense. I don't know.
yeah, I think me. I think that's probably also why, if you go with my theory that it's Emir the whole time, like you're just playing Emir the whole game, I feel like the story would make more sense if you just look at it in that way. In this frame, some of this like either like some of this would have to be cut. Like let's say that Studio 51 was gonna remake the game, and he was gonna say this time I'm gonna make it make sense. He would have to make it so that it would be Amir through and through, because Amir I think has out of the cast that you play as between him, Dan, Coyote, Khan, all these characters, he is the only one that kind of has a cohesive line. Like he has a cohesive arc from the beginning to the end. It's just that it gets bogged down with all these other characters, with Harmon and all these other things that happen. But if you, not saying that it
I
has a
can
cohesive
buy what
story,
you're
but
saying. No, I can buy what you're saying, but I'd have to rewatch all the cutscenes with that lens. Just saying, okay, none of these other people exist. It's just Amir the entire time. But then the part that gets fucked up with this is what are the rules with this like personality absorption shit? Like, does Harmon control everyone or does Garcian? And how did he become Garcian? Because he shot himself in the face.
what if they're both? What if they both have that power, both Harmon and
But then what the
Garcian?
fuck is Harmon? Okay, all right. Let's just think about Harmon this right now, right?
Okay.
Harmon is a fucking disabled man who gets beat up by his maid. Then when you go into a certain room, she's now like she's not a maid, she's just some like trailer trash girl. And then all of a sudden he's like this dude that like I'm trying to think of I can't even really think of those scenes where where Garcian talks to you. I mean Harmon talks to Garcian.
I think.
Like
Well, I think
what do they talk about?
I think they talk in the beginning of the game because there was a cutscene where like Garcian meets Harmon and he like bows to him or something. Like he need. So I think what it could be, because I think because Yoshi
What's
brought this up earlier, that that both Harmon and Garcian have this ability. So I think they both just have this ability and they just both been doing stuff. So Garcian probably transformed into young Harmon so it could be poetic when he kills him. So he's like, "Yeah, Harmon, I'm like your young self. Fuck you." Kills him and then he just walks out. So I think it's just that you either
doesn't
have
make
to.
any fucking sense, Theo. You know it.
Well, I mean, you're talking about Harmon and Garcia. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense. But as I,
But that's what I'm saying. Harmon is like a vegetable man, and he lives in Garcian's trailer house, which has this room where they're playing chess the whole time.
and it has a
Garcian
base,
doesn't know about it,
and it has a
and has
basement.
a basement
But
where Kun Lan is in it. Like what the? None of it makes
and you
fucking
find out,
sense.
Kung Lao is a Iwazaru as well. So
Right,
that's
but it's like
also a
Kun
thing.
Lan, he gets killed. He gets killed by young Harmon. Harmon gets killed by young Harmon. You kill him again as Iwazaru.
But if
And then they're still alive 100 years
but
later.
but if
What
Garcia
the fuck?
but if Garcian can transform himself to be anyone, why can't he just be young Harmon? He kills Harmon, then he inherits Harmon's ability, then transforms to Harmon at the very end. Like that's why I've said before. I think like when you look at Harmon, it kind of throws a wrench in how I took it. But I still think that that Emir has the most cohesive story. Just by itself, he has more of a
I
cohesive
agree. I agree.
narrative. But I just think that I kind of would believe that both Harmon and Garcian have this ability of transforming themselves into whatever assassin they want to be, or whatever the fuck this ability is. It's just that the rules don't really make sense. They're just playing Harmon and Kun Lao are literal gods. So there you go. They're both god. Well, they are gods. I think
But then
that's
who's
kind of
Harmon?
Harmon. Harmon is a god.
Yeah, I'm with that too. But then who's the regular Harmon?
Are you talking
And
about?
then the other thing is Harmon is one of the school board guys too.
Yeah, but there are three. There's three Harmons. So you can figure that one
Fuck
out.
that theory. Whoever wrote that, fuck you.
Damn, Yoshi. Yoshi got off.
Yoshi, that's bullshit, man. You know, you know that makes no fucking sense. Think of something else.
Yeah, go back to the drawing board, Yoshi. Jeez.
All right,
Oh,
we all have homework.
yeah.
What?
And I was gonna say he's just the messenger. He's just telling you what he learned. But whoever you heard that from, fuck him, and he needs to go back to school to learn.
Yeah, go go knock that person out. Whoever told you that, that's bullshit. There's no evidence for that.
Um, yeah, I think that, as I said before, I don't think there's gonna be any true answer. I think it's it's gonna be a very dumb comparison. It's gonna end up like Ed, and Eddie, where they have the character they have that where Ed has like a hat on and you never see what's under the hat, and the show has ended and
Right.
they've never shown it, and that guy's gonna die and we'll never know what's under that hat. He's gonna die with that secret. Suda's gonna die knowing the truth and we'll never know.
Why we're going. That's why we're going to Japan, and we're gonna create a plot to kidnap Suda, so he can explain in excruciating detail what the fuck this game means. Because, like, again, I think there's a lot you can take out of it. Like, even you said that the Almeida stuff was like filler, and I don't really agree with that. I think it's another like
No,
like,
no, no.
it's
I said after. I
it's
said
very
after it.
relevant.
I said after that part, it felt
Oh,
like filler because that stuff had a lot to do with the American government. So it's like, yeah, I can't because like the American government would obviously want to
and
be is
not
interested
just
in
not
Almeida, huh?
not just the American government. It's like it honestly applies to like fucking Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson going into space. Like this like billionaire, like because Almeida's like this billionaire or whatever,
Yeah,
and he's talking about how he's gonna create this utopian society and go into space. Like all of that is relevant to like these tech companies where people worship their CEOs and stuff. Like it's all like makes sense. It makes sense as this episode, but as a greater narrative to Killer 7, fuck no. This makes no fucking sense.
yeah. I mean,
But like,
it also does make sense that between all of this like war between Japan and America that he's offering, we're just gonna fucking leave. This place fucking sucks. Like even if you look back in like 2020, so many people were like, "I want to leave. Fuck this. You know, all this fucked up shit. Fuck this planet." Like we've already had that going on. Like I've seen so many of that fucking meme from Futurama of like, "I don't want to live on this planet anymore." Like, and Almeida encapsulates that so well. It's like and it's at the perfect time in the story where it's like it's nearing the halfway point in the story and you're going through the game and you're just like and if you're just thinking about that the tension between America and Japan, you're just already kind of stressed out over that, and then the smiles and this guy is sitting there saying, we're gonna go to space, this place fucking sucks and it's amazing, it'll be a utopia, and you can sit there and be like, sign me the fuck up, fuck this, yeah, fuck Japan and America go to war. I'm gonna be on fucking Mars. So like, it fits
yeah.
in the grand scheme, as you said, the grand scheme of all of this because it just goes with it so well. That's I think what I like about this game is that all the stuff that feel even the filler parts after it can also be seen as like this is just like a relaxation of like what of all this like nonsense. This is like the calm of it. Like it's like okay, I can finally breathe. I don't have to like fucking deal with this. We're playing a video game right now, fighting the handsome men, and then it ends and you're back into like the thick of it.
All right. So, any last thoughts on the story that you want to get out there? Because I want to talk about gameplay wise. But yeah, any thoughts on the story?
I think it's really one of my favorite video game stories I have played in like
Really?
so long. I really can't think of a story in a game that made me like fall in love with it this much. Like I could argue maybe at the time I was thinking Persona 3 because I like the whole like theme of death that game goes into. But this I just love it. Just the fact that we've been talking for an hour and 20 minutes of just this story is like what I love about it. Like I love that that we'll never get like I hope that we never get any explanation or elaboration. Like there was talk that Suda would want to do a sequel. Like they were looking at the remaster and how the remaster sells, and he was like, if it sells enough, like he could see himself like doing a sequel. Like he could create a sequel if you wanted. Uh, and I could imagine the sequel would just not even like fucking address the game at all. It'd be its own story. I could definitely see it being like, different characters and all this other shit, and I'd be on board. I just love how Gonzo and how risky this story is because so many games I've seen people complain about games and stories where it's like it doesn't explain this, it doesn't explain where's the answers. I don't know what's going on. And it's like yeah, that's like the point. You're not supposed to like it's not gonna tell you. And I think like it flexes a muscle that no one wants to flex anymore. Like no one, everyone's afraid to make a game or a story that just sits there and just says fuck what you want. This is what I want to make. This is the story. This is the themes and all this stuff. And if you can't like think and interpret what's being told to you, too bad. Fuck it. You're just dumb. You're a dum dum. You're a baby brain. This is for the big boy brains. Like I just love stories that are just like they're not afraid to be like, yeah, look at this. What is that? All right, let's move on. It's like okay, like that's what I love about David Lynch. Like, half, like, Eraserhead, Mulholland Drive, all this stuff just throws things at you, and you're just either sitting there like, yeah, I'm on board with it, you're on the same wavelength, or you're not. It's like you're either on board or you're, like, off the train and you're never coming back on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, it must have a pretty good story because I fucking hate video game stories like 97% of the time. Um, but it's funny. I think you should revisit what you just said though. One of your favorite video game stories, better than like Metal Gear.
Oh, yeah, no,
I
I
actually
feel
think
that. Because I like Metal Gear. It's not that Metal Gear is a bad story, but there really isn't much to be like to chew on. It's like like MGS3 I love the most. Like that story I like the most because it's a simple story, but it has all this emotional weight to it. But then you have 4, and it's like okay, nano machines. Okay, like there are good stories in Metal Gear. It's just that I like more abstract stuff that just has that you might see stuff that has no meaning that's just there, or stuff that has meaning, and all this stuff that you can just chew on and think and just like, what does this mean? The fact that I could replay Killer 7 multiple times to get a new experience each time is what I love about it. Metal Gear is kind of like how I see like Cowboy Bebop, Samurai Champloo. Like these are great stories. I love their stories, but it's not like if I rewatch it, it's not like I'm gonna get a new experience. I might get a new experience a second or third time, but I'll still get the same kind of like, yeah, okay, like they found samurai the sunflower samurai, cool, like whatever. But it's just like with this, it's like you could just play it anytime, and it'll just shake your belief. You might think one thing, like the thing I just said in this video, I could play it and I'll sit there and be like, oh no, I'm wrong. It's actually this. I like I could be wrong completely, and I'll be like fine with that because the game is so like gonzo. While Metal Gear, it's like I can't be wrong because the story, like if you just think about it and you just and all this stuff, like you can like line up with a lot of people with it. Like I've said theories about Metal Gear, and I've seen more people agree with what I thought about it. But if I make a long ass post about Killer 7 and my theories about it, I could get like so many people say, no, actually, that's not right. I think it's this. It's like, who, like the fact that we both don't even see eye to eye with it is just proof enough as it is. So that's my thoughts. I think it's like one of the best
fair
video
enough.
game
I see what you're
stories.
saying.
How about you?
Yeah. So my final thoughts on it are I think it's great. Like I said, I think it's just chock full of symbolism about like basically like world politics and war, and it's like about I think it's like all a nihilistic view of it. Like none of it fucking matters. It's just a bunch of bullshit in the middle. It's kind of just all feeds itself. I think you're making a big mistake. Kind of like that video said. Like if you try to interpret this as like a story, like a cohesive bunch of events, you're making a big mistake. Like this game is just a like weird ass art project. Even in like at the time, even cell shading was pretty novel.
Yeah.
So it's like everything about it, like it's got an unconventional gameplay system, um, unconventional story, unconventional style. I just think it's a weird art project, and there's a lot to be taken from it. But if you try to look at it as like, oh, this is like a front to back story, you're making a big fucking mistake.
Yeah, like
And
it's not gonna tell you anything.
yeah, and going back to what I said in the beginning, I actually really wish Suda made it now and did what I said. Like, if it was an episodic thing, it's like these personalities, just the Killer Seven, fucking, it's like a Saturday morning cartoon, and they have a different story every week, and then it just goes on for however long it goes on until it ends. Because like it
Yeah.
really does have like if you think about the story of like Trigun, I don't know if you ever watched that.
No.
Like, well, if you ever watch it, it's actually one of my favorites because it's like pretty funny. But like, it starts by the end, it devolves into this shit that like kind of makes no sense, and it's just like, all right, the story's over. This is where it ends. It makes sense, but like it's also just like comes out of nowhere, kind of. And I think Seven could have had 50 episodes, and then just ended the way it did with Amir Park Reiner or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I fucking love it. I can't. It's one of those things, and I have a lot of things like this in my life where I'm like, I fucking love this game, but I wouldn't recommend it to a normal person. I'd be like, I don't know how to explain to you how awesome this thing is, and if you don't, you're either gonna love it or you're gonna be like, what the fuck is this shit?
I would kind of just
Yeah.
recommend it anyway, just to fuck people up. Like, if
They'll
they,
never play. They'll be like, what is this shit?
yeah, but that, like, that's, to me, that's like the point. I think that's like how you're supposed to like experience these kind of things. Like, you're just supposed to just play it, and then if you don't like it, if you're just confused and you stop playing, if you think it's shit, that's fine because that's how they experience it, and they could just walk away. But like, and especially now that that's on Steam, it's gonna be on sale like every day, pretty much. Steam has all these great sales, and it's a decent price on top of that. So I think it's worth trying just to experience how weird it is, and if you even if you don't like it, I think it's worth it. Like, I have played stuff I've watched stuff I didn't like, but I was like, I appreciate some of the stuff that some things did in it. Like, so I think it's worth checking out. I would recommend it just so that people can experience it and see what they take from it, because it might tap into a part of their mind they didn't even know that they had, because no games have challenged them. This game would challenge what they perceive, what they think that they like. It's like you as a kid, you eat food you hate. You're like, oh, this food sucks. Fuck this food. Then you revisit it. This food fucking rules. What? Like, I used to hate beans, and then I ate beans. Now I'm like, oh, beans are actually pretty good. I love beans. But back then it was like, this shit sucks. I don't want to touch it.
Fair point. Fair point. All right, so let's talk about the gameplay of the last, I'd say, hour and a half of the game, because I really think it goes off the rails. Um, like from the handsome man fight on. Well, I guess the school is still kind of fun. Actually, school might be one of the funnest parts of the game, except there's not really a lot to it. Like, there's the two hallways basically
Yeah.
where you find all the shit, and then like basically those missile enemies come at you. But like everything besides that from the handsome men fight on is pretty much scripted. Like, there's
Yeah.
not any gameplay left by the
I
end of the game,
I
which is
think
kind of annoying. I kind of bothered me a lot, actually.
it didn't for me because the game was so different in each area. Like, it was always mixing things up. So I was more like, wow, this part, like, they did nothing traditional. Like, it like, no game would do that. Like, you go in thinking, oh, there's gonna be this big intense boss fight. It's gonna be like a giant smile or some shit. You're gonna fight Kun Lao. You never fight the fucking guy, and it's like, oh yeah, you're just gonna be fucking like just doing shit, and then everything is
In the
kind of
face.
scripted.
Yeah, which is funny that you have that viewpoint, because you were talking about how unsatisfying like shitty end bosses are. But like the game ends, like it's so weird. The game literally comes to the climax and nothing is happening. Like, you go to the hotel the second time. So after you fight the principal, which I don't think you can die in that fight either. I don't think you can
I
die
kind
because
of
he
want
kept
to
shooting.
try because I feel you could die uh at the first part. I think once his gun drops, you can't die because you're that part gets scripted, because I think what it is that his damage is so minimal that you probably, it's impossible. I think it's virtually impossible because his damage probably does like half of a quarter or whatever. Like it does like tiny damage. So you're just like you would have to like put the controller down and leave, and then come back and see if there's a game over screen. You know
Yeah,
what?
the other
I'm
thing I'm
gonna.
trying to figure out, bro, is like, do they automatically change you? Like when you go into the gym, right? Do you get changed into Dan right away? Because I was standing there because I forgot how to beat him, and then I realized he swings around, right? And he was shooting me the whole time. I didn't die.
Maybe.
You texting right now, for you?
No, I'm researching this. I'm asking Google to see can you die in this fight. I don't think anyone ever even tried. There's like no answer. Well, I guess when I do Killer 8, I'll
I
figure
don't
that
think you
out.
can die.
I'll play Killer 8, I'll figure it out. I'll
So
try.
yeah, I don't think you can. Yeah, I don't think you can die in that fight. So you fight this guy, you cannot die. And also when you become Garcian at the end, no enemies. There's no enemies anymore.
There might be one.
No, no. They don't. Yeah, there's no enemies after
Oh
that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then you
you're right.
can't die in the gym. You can't die in the gym. I don't think there's anything to fight inside the hotel the second time, right?
No. After that, it's a straight path to the end because So like last time we talked, I just got to the gym. Actually, I just remember because I talked about the handsome man fight in the last episode. So right then, after that, I went to the point where I was just like halfway through the gym and all this stuff. I beat that, and then I stopped playing for a bit because I was gonna do something else. And then when I picked it up, I was like, I beat this within an hour. I was surprised how quick. Because I was like, I could have beat this yesterday if I wanted to, whatever. But I waited till like today to do it. I was like, whatever. But it's all the only thing you fight is you just shoot Iwazaru in the face, and that's it. Like that's the last thing you
Right.
do.
Well, there are heaven
Oh yeah,
smile
that's true.
at the
There's
beginning,
yeah, because like they're invisible and you
but
can't
you
like
can just
scan them.
shoot them and they're gone.
Which I didn't even know. I was so trained to scan. I was like, I can't scan him. Guess I can't kill him. So I just kept walking. And I was like, what the fuck? This is stupid. And then like, and then I just kind of tanked hits and just walked into the building anyway. So I was able to get past it without killing him. And then I watched that video you sent me because I beat the game at that point, and I was like, "Oh, you can shoot them. Okay, that makes it way easier." And then when I wanted the second ending, or like when I picked the other option, I was like, "Okay, I'll just do that." And I was like, "Okay, that's fine." I was like after that I felt really dumb. I was like, "Ugh, why didn't I try shooting?" But I couldn't see them because I kept looking. And I was like, I can't see them. I don't know where I'm shooting. I don't know where the fuck they are. Fuck it. I guess I'm not supposed to shoot them. So it's just like
The
whatever.
trick.
Yeah. But I've
Here's
also noticed that
here's
there's
the trick that you might have forgotten you have this ability. What were you gonna say?
oh, I was gonna say oh, what was if you looked at Garcian's eyes, his eyes are completely different colors at that part of the game too.
Yes.
It was bugging me out. I was like, what the fuck is going
Yeah.
on with his eyes? It was kind of creeping me out. I felt a little bit uneasy. I was like, because I was picturing like if I saw this dude just walking down the hallway, I'd probably like fucking run. Like it just like so off-putting. I was like, I fucking hate it. But
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what you can do. You remember that you can hit B to lock on to one, right?
no,
So
no.
literally all you have to do to beat that part is
Oh my
press R1,
god.
press B, press A, press B, press B, A, press B, press A, and you'll just go, son of a bitch,
How
son of a bitch, son of a bitch.
how did you figure that out? Like were you just press because like I don't because like there's no tutorials in this game. The game never tells you shit. Like I that's what I
Because
love
the
about
game
it.
is deceptively simple.
Yeah, like I'm sure there are people that would hate it for the game not telling. Like I could see an article, Killer 7 is so not like accepting of newcomers. They don't tell you how to play the game. But it's like that's for this kind of game, that's what's fun about it. Just figuring stuff out on your own. I
There's literally 4 buttons. There's
yeah
4 buttons. Figure it out.
yeah like just experiment.
Well, actually, and the C stick to reload, which is
Yeah,
really important, actually.
that's the most. But I was just going in like a challenge mode. I was doing a challenge run of this game. But yeah, the game is
Yeah,
very
yeah.
like simple, and
No B button mode, right?
yeah, I as I said, I love how like unconventional the game, like the story presentation is unconventional, and so is the gameplay. Like it's so unapologetic with how it plays. Like, for newcomers that never touched a video game, sure, they're like, oh yeah, wow, yippee, yippee doo dah, and they're just zipping through the game, and they're just either enjoying it or they drop the game because they got confused. Uh, and then you have like the veterans who played video games go in, and this game just plays with that expectation so hard. It's like fuck you, you expect this, fuck that. Like it goes completely like it goes out of its way to not play into what you expect. Like it's a meme at this point where it's kind of like passe for things to subvert expectations. It's like, okay, can we like fucking have a anything that doesn't do this anymore? Like we get it. But in 2005, this game does it in such a way where you're just like, wow, this game is like, and that's why I think like it's ahead of its time that this game is so like it doesn't. It's not like we're not gonna be like any other game. We're just gonna fuck with your expectations, and you're gonna have to accept it. If you don't, goodbye. There's the door. It's like now it's like, oh wow, you did this, and I didn't
Well,
expect it. Like this game just does it.
I like how it I really do think that limitations like create innovation, and by restricting it to just being like, okay, you hit A to move, they really did come up with something. There's something about it that's genius to me. Like
It's
the you're
otherworld.
on a rail. Yeah, and I like I think people would argue with me and say it's just stupid, but there's something brilliant about that. You
I
just press A.
I honestly
I
would
don't know.
I would say it was stupid back when I was like in high school playing this game. But I think really, if you stick with this game, the controls just grow on you, and you're just like, yeah, this feels so satisfying. It's like it's the same. I said this before. It's like the same reason why I don't really uh accept the criticism of No More Heroes saying like, oh, the combat's too simple. There's nothing complex about it. It's like, well, that's the point. Like it's if you stick with No More Heroes, it's like, yeah, it makes sense, and it's fun all the same. Like it's all cathartic, dumb fun, and Killer 7 kind of falls into that same kind of mindset for me, where it's like this gameplay is so simple, and if you just accept it, it's like I fucking love how it works, and I think after playing this game a lot, I think it's way better on PC, just just with the keyboard and mouse support, because I had so many like that one smile where I had all these big boiling like weak points you have to shoot, and when you get down to like the last point you have to shoot, he just runs at you. That part was pissing me off. I almost just gave up on the game because of it, because it was like I know what I have to do. It's just that I'm trying to slowly move to this small little weak point, and by the time like I get to that point, it's like he's running at me. It's like I have no time to react or anything because it's constantly moving. But uh and I think with the PC, with the keyboard and mouse, it's like, oh, bing, bing, boom. Which I guess you could argue that it kind of breaks the game, but it's like some of these enemies' weak points are so like precise that it kind of just it goes both ways. Where it's like, no, they just thought that the controller could aim for these points. These are way too specific to be like, oh, well, it's breaking the challenge. But again, it just breaks this whole
I
like
don't know.
perception.
I played it with an Xbox controller.
Well, it's not that it's not playable. But I mean, I think the controllers now are better aiming than GameCube at the time as well. I don't know, because like it is what it is. It's fine. I think it's playable all the same. It's playable on GameCube. It's playable on PC. It's playable. Period. Like if you were able to beat the game, it's playable to me. Like
You know what would be fun to play with, and I should have tried this,
A fight stick?
is with the fucking Wii remote and a
Uh,
nunchuck. Like you would just be able to you play it like this. You just be like, okay. Because you have the Wii remote, you just press A, and you get the nunchuck, you're aiming. It'd be
well,
so
no,
fun.
actually, you're aiming with the Wii remote. Oh no, I guess this used to. No, you're right because like the analog stick would be the aimer, not the stick. So let's get into our scoring system with this. So, what would you score this game out of a out of 5?
Hmm. I want to say 4.
4. All
4 out of
right.
5. I think I was about to say actually, I kind of wish there were clones of this game. Like people I wish this became like a genre in some
You know
ways
what?
because I
Fuck.
wish the what?
I was gonna say you brought up a good point. I was gonna say fuck these indie devs that are like, oh, let's make PT. Oh, PT got canceled. Well, let's make PT ourselves. Yeah, let's do that. There's so many fucking games that are just trying to like recapture that lightning in a bottle, and I'm fucking tired of it. PT is dead. Silent Hills is never coming out. Move on. Stop trying to be the next PT. Do Killer 7. Do that. Do Killer 9. Do Killer 20. Fuck the PT bullshit. Do this.
I'm, I'm just saying from the perspective of like just use the same control scheme, the same like type of challenge because I do wish that the puzzles were harder. And it's
Yeah.
like it makes sense. It's literally the first game of its kind. I know like things like Myst are similar and like obviously like regular point and click adventure games are similar, but it's a different type of control and it's like I wish the puzzles were a little bit more complex. Um the
Yeah.
combat is a little the combat is refined as well, but other than that, I absolutely love this game. So I'd say 4 out of 5.
Yeah. I mean, the school is like the only part where the puzzles get kind of complex.
And you had to yeah, yeah.
I mean, I have a whole like notebook of stuff. When I wrote this down, I realized I could have just opened a wiki for this. I could have just opened a fucking Google, like a website. But so I would give this game probably a 5 out of 5 because that this game is
Uh,
just it's so it just speaks to me on such a level. Like it felt like I was on the same wavelength with
4.
Suda, huh?
You think it's flawless.
Yeah, like
Not a flaw.
well, I subscribe to the thought process of like you're never gonna get a truly perfect game or anything like that, but a perfect score is more of like the experience and enjoyment and all that, like my overall thing. Like if I didn't have fun, if there was stuff that I just did not like at all, like if I just truly had no desire to continue, I probably would have ranked this lower. It's like because if I stopped, let's say I stopped at that enemy I said here with the boiling points or whatever, I probably would have said okay a 4. I mean that enemy was just so dumb, fuck that or whatever. But I still stuck with that. Like there was parts of the game that felt like bullshit, but it was like I'll stick with this bullshit and just beat and just I know I'll eventually beat it. Any other game, I probably would have just said no, I'll move on. Like if I played a game and I stuck on a boss fight for way too fucking long, it's like I do not have any desire to continue. Like Bloodstained, like that final boss getting fucking rotten hell, I do not give a shit. That boss fight was not even fun.
You have to
So
beat it one day.
I
You have to beat
I
it one
might,
day.
but it's just I really have no desire. While this game, everything that was like giving me a hard time was like I had a desire to stick with it and beat it. So it's that, it's the story, it's like the overall package. It's like even the gameplay, like I just sat there was like, well, this game is just so weird and the gameplay is weird. So like of course like the combat's gonna be fucking off. Like the parking lot scene, I was like sitting there, I was like, what could they have really done with what they played with? Like how could you not get hit by Ayanami running around the parking lot? Which is why I thought was great was the second fight you have with her was so stupidly easy. It's like they made that fight intentionally fucking bullshit. So when you fight her again, it's like the tables have turned. It's like you already know where she's going. Just gun her down. This is your reward for putting up with that bullshit. It's like perfect. I love all that stuff. So all this stuff that's just woven into the DNA. It's like I can't I can't imagine if any other developer made this game, if anyone came to like EA, Activision, whatever with this game, like I'm gonna make Killer 7. Like if this was a pitch, they would never get this out the door. Like they would just say no, no one's gonna buy it. Who would buy this fucker? No, pass. It's the same shit I see with like a Clockwork Orange. It's not my favorite Kubrick film, but the fact that he got Warner Brothers to put their name on it was like, yeah, if any other director was like, yeah, we're gonna have a movie about like these rapists and like everyone's an asshole, everyone's awful, no one would take it. No one would put their name on that movie. So I appreciate that movie for just being made, but unlike that movie, this game, I loved everything about it. I loved the characters. I loved the stories. I I agree that I wish that the other characters were more fleshed out. Like I would have loved to know more about Kaede. I would have loved to know more about her, and Khan and Coyote. But even as it is, it's still a great package, even with the cut content. Unlike MGS5, where you know there's cut content and it's like, what a shame. You leave that game thinking, what a shame. While you leave Killer 7, it's like, yeah, I wish there was more, but it's a great game. Like, so I gave it a 5. So overall, we gave it like a 9 out of 10. So it was not a perfect game overall, but it's a solid experience.
You know, I gotta also say something else that takes away from it is that, and like you said this about the boss fights, like the boss fights are cool in like an interesting art project way, but really gameplay wise, every boss fight sucks.
Yeah, it's like
The the
yeah.
only the only boss the only boss fight that was like somewhat interesting that played with the game mechanics was the first one where you shoot the faces off that girl's back.
But even that wasn't
All the rest of
yeah.
them were just like, it was almost like they were like, we can't figure out how to make this fun, so let's just make them like this weird like game project.
Yeah, make them all different. Like I think it just opened them up to be
Uh,
like to be more like let's think about how we can set up boss fights that are not traditional boss fights and they work all the same. They work narratively and just with the weight of when you get to these parts. Like when you go to like the Handsome
yeah,
Men, it's like yeah, it's scripted, but you
yeah.
feel it. Like you feel like this is the end of it. Like this is the end of the Handsome Men segment. The Curtis fight is like really fucking easy, but it's like the weight is there. Like you know that like they serve as good like keynotes of like you know when a chapter is ending. Like it serves the pacing. Like if they just did not have that, it would just be monotony. It
But
would,
this this speaks to our preferences because you like narrative based stuff and I'm all about gameplay. So I'm like, fuck this shit. Like, where are the interesting? Like, I feel like they could have done so many more interesting things. Like, for instance, like you can't use like your special abilities during boss fights, but it would have been interesting if you could, and they played with that somehow. Like,
yeah.
it says, have you ever? Did you ever try to like use like Khan super speed during a boss fight,
No.
or
Wait.
like Kevin's invisibility?
I
It
might
just says
actually.
stop messing around.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, because I tried the fast thing with the parking lot boss fight with Ayanami. I tried that and didn't work. I was like, oh fuck
Would have
this.
been which would have been super interesting if that's how if it was like, okay, that's because like the bosses could have been more interesting puzzles. Like
Yeah.
there's literally a boss where the whole thing is that they set you up to lose with Mask. They're like, here, we'll give you the slowest shooter, and the whole point is that you have to shoot her a million times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know. I.
So it's
Yeah.
like I wish they had made it more. Yeah. Because like it would have been interesting if it was like, okay, I'll pick Khan because he has super speed, so I can keep up with her, so she can't shoot me.
But I think like if it's that though, it would just be too easy because then it would be like, what's the point? Like because the whole point
Well,
they give you mask and you
I'm
wouldn't
not
think
saying that,
about changing the character. You'd be like, oh, I'll just use mask. Fuck it. Like you get
but
complacent with
there's
the
also nothing
character.
telling you that you're doing the wrong.
The game
There's
over
no
is
way to
telling
know you're
you
doing the wrong thing.
when you die. That's how you
Fuck,
know. So there you go.
that's
See,
fucking stupid.
I
I
thought you were the gamer,
I
and
only I only knew I knew to switch just because I literally distinctly remember that one from when I was 15 and I played it. I was like, this is bullshit. I remember this shit.
Well, yeah, you see, this criticism is like the second playthrough criticism. The first playthrough, it's that's where like the game stands on its own. The second playthrough, it's like okay, but the first playthrough, that boss fight works because the average gamer that never played this game before would not think, oh, this fight I need to change characters. You're gonna think I have to be masked.
I
Wait,
mean,
this isn't working. What the fuck? Oh, I can change during boss fights. Oh, okay. Bam. Like, it's not a complex puzzle, but it's like, you wouldn't think about it. But
I think
I know what
you're
you
being
mean. I know what you mean, though.
you're being too nice. You're being too nice. That's just bullshit.
I
It's
mean,
like it's funny as like a mind fuck as like, oh, they just set me up to fail, but it's like you could have done something better than this.
well, I I agree with that. It's like not that complex. It's not that like interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. I agree. I know what you mean with these boss fights. I agree. It's just that I was like after the first two boss fights. After that, I kind of was like, okay, these boss fights are not going to be like anything of note. Like it's just that I think after the first boss and after the second, like I think after the first boss that should have told you enough. But the second boss fight's like the last thing. The game's pretty much telling you, please, you know what you're expecting now because it's kind of like yeah. After that, it's like I can't really hold the game accountable because it's being honest with the bosses. It's like it's not like the game is like building up these boss fights like, yeah, oh, this guy's gonna be a badass. Look at him, he's a badass. Oh man, wait till you fight him. And then it's like,
Oh,
all
wait
right.
a second.
Well, I guess come
Wait a
now.
second. What about they are doing they no, they do that with the Heaven Smile bosses that aren't really bosses. When they introduce a new Heaven Smile, you go
Mm,
through that room, you go through the Vinculum gate, and then that kid is like tells you how to kill it.
yeah.
And then
I,
it's literally like, all right,
but
this thing's dead in one shot.
but I don't really see those as as bosses though, because they have the same intro as any other enemy they introduced to you in any part of the stage in the past. So that's why, like, when I saw that, that just seems more of just like a warm up. Like they're just gonna throw something at you. So those I never considered boss fights. I considered the people that you see as boss fights. So that's probably how I
Fair
experienced
enough.
it. So well, that is it for this special Big Bun Game Club. It's almost 2 hours. This went longer than I expected, but for good reason. Uh,
Well, that's because we're arguing about the story.
yeah,
I
I think.
apologize to anyone I insulted on the stream. I was just fucking around. No one take any offense to it.
Oh, my viewers are all cool people.
All
I,
right.
but it's all good.
I'm just fucking around. I don't really think you should punch yourself in the face or whatever I said.
It's all good. I don't. We'll talk about the next game next week. But I will say, last thing I will say, it just came out. Death's Door is a great fucking game. It's an indie game, and it's so fucking good. I think you'd like it because you play as a crow and you're just going around killing things. Like you're supposed to be harvesting souls. It's like yeah, you're pretty much the Reaper, and you're like yeah, you're harvesting souls. This big thing is not going down. You gotta go and kill it and take its soul. You go, you kill it, and then you find out there's this whole other thing going on. And the game is so fucking good. It just drops you into this world. There's no waypoint. It doesn't tell you where to go. You're just exploring and you're just killing enemies as you go. Like it does give you some like there is directions on where to go, but it doesn't tell you directly. Like you're just kind of going intuitively just with the stage design. It is a fantastic game. Uh the boss fights are really good. Like it's kind of
It does look fun.
it's a great game. I'll have to stream it. It's so good. It's already one of my favorite
Have
games
you
of the year.
have you played Titan Souls?
No.
Oh, well it's made by the same developer as Titan Souls, which is a really good game. Titan
Yeah.
Souls is really hard though.
This one might be good because this one
That
has
was fun actually.
like there's a fight where you're fighting a giant house and it has like these arms and you have to like learn the pattern of like him just dropping down, and then he's gonna swing around to a 360 like sweep. And it's like, oh shit, I have to like run back, and you're so slow, so you have to like know ahead of time when to dodge. It then does these major lasers that chase you down. It is so good, and it's so satisfying. It locks, and the healing system is so good. So the way that healing works is that you get these seeds. You have to plant the seeds in these pots that are in specific areas, and then that's how you heal yourself. Once you heal yourself, that thing is done, and it will not heal you again until you die. Once you die, then it'll become like a healing spot. Like you plant permanent healing locations as you go, but once you use them, it's gone. You have to go to another one that you planted before, etc. That kind of stuff. And that it is so unique, just how it forces you to like think about where you want to plant your seeds, when do you want to heal, and like if you lose health, you can't like go back to a previous pot. You have to either go all the way back, or like if they lock you in and you have one like pot to plant and you use it, you have to do the rest of that like horde without healing, and it's so good. It's so fun. I highly recommend it. I think it's on sale. It's on sale on Xbox. I think for Steam, there's a code you have to type in to get a discount.
No, not on Steam.
It is on Steam.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's
No, I
one.
mean it's not on sale though. As far as I
Well,
can tell.
I'm saying like the Steam version. You have to put in a discount code for it. I don't know the discount code because
Oh, okay.
it's not a native sale. It's like you have to put in a code for it. It's on sale for Microsoft though. If you get it on Xbox
Right,
or
right.
whatever Microsoft has for PC. But it's $20. I'd say it's really. I mean, you're really only saving like $3 from the sale anyway. So it's like you're not really. It's not a huge sale, but it's a great game. I highly recommend it. Just from the beginning of it, my first impression of that game, it's a great
Oh wait.
game.
Oh. Okay. Cool. I might check it out. So wait,
Alright.
how do we? I forgot how we do this.
Oh,
Do we pick? Do we pick the game next week or do we text about it? I don't remember how we've been picking games.
uh, I I kind of have a game, but well, I'll say my pick. Because we've been kind of alternating picks, but I'll say my pick, and then we could go from there. I was thinking either doing Final Fantasy 11 or Devil May Cry 2. I was thinking one of those two games, or we could do Death's Door. We could do that, and then we could just go use that as the game club game. Like I guess either these games that we
Let's
could.
think about it.
Yeah, so we'll talk about next video or stream
It's
if this pans
Fi-
out.
you mean Final?
The
You mean
Zodiac
Final
Killer.
Fantasy 12, right?
Yeah, that's the one.
Zodiac Age.
Yeah, the Zodiac Age
Okay.
Killer.
Okay.
game.
Yeah. I really want to play that. I'd definitely be down to play Devil May Cry 2. And I'd be down to play Death's Door. So let's mull it over. We'll think about it.
We'll sit tight. All right, I'm gonna end the stream, guys. Thank you for watching. This is the first time we're streaming this. If you like it streamed, let me know. Wherever you can. It seemed fine to me. I thought there was gonna be a massive delay, but there wasn't. It seemed to be the same delay we always get. Uh, so that it seems to be good.
We'll have
Lauren,
to figure that out.
yeah, I think I'll do what you said and just say like, oh, let's set a time and then just go live at that time. Then to whatever, we'll figure that out from there. I'll see how this does, etc. But thank you for watching, everyone.
Yeah, if people hate it, it's not worth scheduling it.
Yeah. So far, no one seems to hate it. I got like people were digging it. And the other thing I was kind of afraid of was that it was just gonna be me looking at chat and reading chat. I was like, these are like kind of like podcasty kind of things. I don't want to sit here and just like, okay, let's read chat, this kind of stuff. But it's all good. It all worked out. I think this system works. But we'll see. We'll see by next week, and I'll make a decision there. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.
Cool. Solidus did nothing wrong.